All right, ready to dive into the world of the product quality inspector.
Let's do it.
We're talking about the folks who make sure every single product, the gadgets we love, the clothes we wear, meets those top-notch standards. And guess what? You've got an interview coming up.
Absolutely. And we're going to make sure you absolutely ace it.
We've got RoleCatcher's amazing resources to guide us, the career guide, and the interview guide. They're like treasure maps for aspiring product quality inspectors, packed with insider tips, those tricky sample questions.
Plus, they even have these cool AI tools to help give you a real edge.
So we'll be pulling all the best bits from both guides to paint you a clear picture of this role, what it takes to shine.
And most importantly, how to tackle those interview questions like a pro.
So let's jump right in. First things first, what does a typical day look like for a product quality inspector?
Picture yourself on the factory floor. You hear the machines humming, see the whole production process in action. You're the guardian of quality, armed with a keen eye and a toolbox of measuring instruments.
Ooh, I like that. Guardian of quality.
You might be inspecting a smartphone's circuitry, verifying the stitching on clothes, or even using some high-tech equipment to make sure every component is perfect.
The career guide even mentioned some cool alternative job titles. Ever heard of an automated optical inspection operator?
It sounds pretty futuristic, right? And it really shows how technology is becoming more and more important in quality control. But at its core, it's still all about ensuring every product meets the highest standards.
Yeah, whether it's high-tech or those more traditional methods. But let's be real, it can't all be robots and excitement, right?
Yeah.
What are some of those maybe not so glamorous parts of the job?
Well, as with any job, there can be some repetitive tasks, spending hours inspecting the same component for tiny flaws. It takes focus, patience, and a real passion for quality to thrive in this role.
Yeah, and I bet it's a pretty high-pressure environment, especially when deadlines are looming.
You hit the nail on the head. You need to be able to stay calm, work efficiently under pressure, and make decisions that impact both the product and the production schedule. It's challenging but rewarding, knowing you're playing a vital role in delivering excellence to customers.
That sense of making a difference is huge. Okay, before we dive into the actual interview prep, how does RoleCatcher's AI actually work its magic? It almost sounds too good to be true.
It's pretty impressive. Say you're working on your resume, you upload it to RoleCatcher, and their AI analyzes it. It compares it to tons of product quality inspector job descriptions. It figures out the keywords, skills, and experiences that hiring managers are looking for.
So it's like having a personal resume guru, but AI-powered.
Exactly. And it goes even further. RoleCatcher also gives you AI-powered feedback on those practice interview questions, helping you identify areas for improvement and even suggesting different ways to phrase your answers or better examples to really make you stand out.
That's a total game changer. Okay, let's tackle some of those interview questions. The interview guide is packed with them, and we've picked out some of the most common ones. This first one's a classic. Describe a time you identified a product defect. What steps did you take? What are they really trying to figure out here?
This question's all about gauging your attention to detail, how you solve problems, and if you understand those quality processes. They want to see how you handle a real-world situation when quality is on the line.
So it's not just about spotting the problem, but knowing what to do next.
You got it. It's about showing initiative, following procedures, and understanding the bigger picture. Let's say you're inspecting, I don't know, coffee mugs, and you notice a tiny crack in one of the handles.
Okay, got it. Picturing it now. A tiny crack, barely there, but definitely a problem. What do you do?
First, you don't want to brush it off. You need to carefully document it, describe the location, the size, and anything else that's important. Maybe even snap a picture.
Makes sense. Need a clear record of what you found.
Exactly. Then you'd follow the procedures for reporting such defects. Maybe tell a supervisor, input it into a system, or even separate the defective mug from the others.
That's where knowing specific quality processes comes in handy, right? Like those ISO standards probably have a whole bunch of rules for these situations.
Absolutely. And be ready for follow-up questions about those procedures. They might ask you, how did you decide how serious the defect was? Or how did you make sure it was properly documented and reported?
Wow, they really want to see how you think on your feet. Okay, that was a great breakdown. Let's move on to another one that pops up a lot. How do you stay updated on industry standards and regulations? What's the best way to tackle this one?
This is all about showing you're dedicated to learning and genuinely interested in quality control. Saying you just read articles online isn't going to cut it. You need to be specific. Mention some trusted sources. Show them you're actively engaged and staying informed.
Okay, so what are some examples of those trusted sources?
Yeah.
Where do product quality inspectors go for their news and updates?
Membership in professional organizations like the American Society for Quality, ASQ, is a great starting point. They've got a ton of resources, from publications and webinars to training courses and certifications.
And I'm guessing there are also publications or online forums specifically for quality control.
Absolutely. You could mention subscribing to magazines like Quality Magazine or Quality Digest, or being active in online forums or LinkedIn groups where professionals share their knowledge and talk about trends.
It's about showing you're not just passively reading stuff, but actively seeking out information and participating in the conversation.
Exactly. And don't forget to mention specific trends or changes in regulations that you've been following. For example, you could say, I've been keeping up with updates to ISO 9001 and how they affect quality management systems.
That shows you're not only aware of the big picture, but also thinking about how those changes apply to you as a product quality inspector. It could even spark a good conversation with the interviewer who might have some interesting thoughts to share.
Exactly. It's about demonstrating that you're not just there for a job, but that you're passionate about this field. You're eager to contribute what you know.
I love that. It's all about that genuine enthusiasm shining through. Okay, let's tackle a question that might seem a bit unexpected. Tell me about a time you had to deal with a difficult colleague or a conflict situation. Why would they ask this in a product quality inspector interview?
It might seem a bit out of place, but it's really important. A product quality inspector works with a lot of different people. Production teams, engineers, other departments. Knowing how to handle tough situations with people is essential.
So they're actually looking at teamwork and conflict resolution skills, even though the job focuses on product quality.
Exactly. They want to see you can stay professional, communicate well, and find solutions that are good for both the team and the quality of the product.
Okay, what's a good example of a conflict situation that you could use to answer this question?
Let's say you see a colleague cutting corners on a quality control procedure because of a tight deadline. This could compromise the product and put the company at risk. How would you handle that?
Ooh, that's a tough one. You don't want to be confrontational, but you can't ignore a potential quality issue.
You're right. You'd want to talk to your colleague calmly and privately. Express your concerns. Explain why it's important to follow the procedures.
So it's not about blaming them, but about emphasizing the shared goal of making sure the product is high quality.
Exactly. You could say, I know we're under pressure, but I'm worried that skipping this step could hurt the quality and our reputation with customers.
That's a great way to put it, focusing on the bigger picture and that shared responsibility.
And be ready to talk about what happened next. Did your colleague take your feedback well? Did you find a solution that worked for both the deadline and the quality?
It's all about showing you can be assertive, but also work well with others to find solutions that benefit everyone.
Okay, we've covered some really valuable stuff here, breaking down those tricky questions and figuring out what hiring managers are really looking for.
We've just scratched the surface, though. There's so much more in the RoleCatcher guides, and we'll be diving deeper in the next part of our deep dive.
Welcome back to our Product Quality Inspector Deep Dive. We're going to keep uncovering those secrets to acing that interview.
We're armed with those amazing RoleCatcher guides, ready to tackle some more of those tough questions.
All right, let's jump into one that really gets to the core of what a product quality inspector does. Describe your approach to documenting inspection findings. Why is accurate documentation so important?
This one seems to be all about being super meticulous and paying attention to those little details.
Yeah.
Not just finding the defects, but recording them clearly. Right.
Absolutely. Your documentation becomes super important. It's like a reference point for analyzing stuff, tracking trends, and even figuring out if there are any systemic issues in the production process.
So it's not just ticking boxes. It's about creating a record that can actually be used to make things better and prevent problems later on.
Exactly. Imagine you have this small defect that keeps popping up. Without good documentation, it might slip through the cracks. But with detailed records, those patterns emerge. You can investigate the root cause and address it.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
How would you explain your approach to documentation in a way that really showcases your strengths?
Well, you want to highlight that you're all about accuracy, keeping things clear, and being concise. You could mention specific techniques you use, like those standardized forms, using clear language, taking photos of those defects, or even those fancy digital tools for efficient record keeping.
It's all about showing you're organized, thorough, and you're always thinking about how your documentation can make quality better, right? Okay, let's switch gears a bit. How about this one? How would you handle a situation where a production deadline is approaching, but you find a potential quality issue that could cause a delay? That sounds like a tough spot to be in.
It definitely is. This question's designed to see how you make decisions under pressure and balance different priorities, especially when you have to uphold quality standards.
It's that classic battle, time pressure versus quality. How do you navigate that tricky situation without messing up the product or the schedule?
The key is to stay calm and think analytically. Show them you can assess how serious the issue is and communicate it clearly to the right people.
So no running around panicking, right? Just taking a
Yeah.
step back and thinking strategically.
Exactly. You need to clearly explain what could happen if production continues. Emphasize those risks, but also offer some solutions.
Solutions are key. Can't just point out the problem. Got to be part of fixing it.
Right. For instance, you could suggest faster testing procedures, stopping a part of production while you investigate, or even finding alternative solutions that maintain that core functionality while you address that specific quality concern.
So basically, showing them you can think on your feet, communicate effectively, and find solutions that work for both quality and efficiency. All right, here's a question that lets you really shine. Tell me about a time you went above and beyond to ensure product quality.
Ah, yes. The classic above and beyond question. This is where you get to show them your dedication, your initiative, and how passionate you are about quality.
I love these questions. You get to tell a story and let your personality come through.
Exactly. The interviewer wants to see those specific examples of how you've gone that extra mile to make a difference.
So what kind of scenario would really wow them?
Think about those times where you spotted a potential issue that others might have missed. Or maybe when you proactively did something to prevent a problem before it even happened.
Okay, I'm getting some ideas here. For example, you noticed a weird pattern in those defect reports, something nobody else saw. You investigated, maybe stayed late or dug deep into the data, and ended up finding a flaw in the process that could have caused huge problems later on.
That's a perfect example. It shows them you're a sharp observer, you're analytical, and you're dedicated to going above and beyond.
Or, what about this? You implemented a new checklist or procedure, even though it wasn't required, and it ended up saving the company time and money by preventing defects.
That's another excellent point. It highlights your initiative, those problem-solving skills, and that you're thinking about the big picture. You're not just following instructions, you're actively making those quality processes better.
And speaking of improvement, the RoleCatcher Career Guide mentions some pretty interesting career paths for product quality inspectors. It's not just a one-size-fits-all kind of role, is it?
Not at all. As you gain experience, you can specialize in a specific industry or focus on a particular product or even become an expert in certain quality control methods.
Wow, so many different directions you could go. The guide even had some cool job titles like Automated Optical Inspection Operator or Battery Test Technician.
Those titles really show how technology is becoming a bigger part of quality control. But even with all that automation, those skilled human inspectors, the ones with that sharp eye and passion for quality, they're always going to be needed.
It's that human touch, that ability to think critically and solve problems that makes a great product quality inspector stand out. Okay, before we move on to more questions, let's circle back to RoleCatcher's AI tools. We talked about how they can help with resumes and practicing answers. Are there other ways they can help you get ready for that interview?
Definitely. One of the coolest things is that you can tailor your answers to specific job descriptions. Say you're applying for a product quality inspector role, and the company really wants someone with experience using a particular type of testing equipment.
Okay, I'm with you. So
Yeah.
you'd want to make sure you highlight that experience in your answers, right?
Exactly. You can put that job description right into RoleCatcher. Their AI analyzes it and figures out the keywords and skills that are super important to that specific employer. Then, when you're practicing, it gives you feedback and suggestions, helping you fine-tune your answers to perfectly match what they're looking for.
That's amazing. It's like having a coach who knows exactly what the hiring manager wants to hear, takes out all the guesswork.
It's all about giving you the best shot at success and showcasing your skills and experience in the most effective way.
And that brings us back to those interview questions. We've tackled some tough ones, but there's still more to uncover in those RoleCatcher guides.
Let's dive into those next. I'm sure our listener is eager to soak up all this great info and conquer that interview.
All right, welcome back to our Product Quality Inspector Interview Prep Deep Dive. We're in the final stretch now, getting you ready to wow those hiring managers.
We've got more great insights from RoleCatcher, those trusty guides of ours, to help you conquer these last few interview hurdles. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it. What we got next?
Let's tackle this one. What are some of the biggest challenges you anticipate facing as a product quality inspector, and how would you approach them?
Hmm. This one's interesting. It's like they want to know if you're realistic, if you understand those potential roadblocks you might face on the job.
You got it. It's about showing you're not just coming in with rose-colored glasses. You know the not so fun parts of the role, and you've got strategies for handling them.
So what kind of challenges would they be looking to hear about?
Well, there's those repetitive tasks, right? Staying focused for hours, that can be tough. Working under pressure, deadlines looming, that can be stressful. And sometimes navigating those potential conflicts with production teams, who might be all about speed over quality, that can be tricky.
Yeah, I can see how those would be real challenges.
Yeah.
So how do you approach these in a way that impresses the interviewer?
Okay, let's start with those repetitive tasks. You could talk about how you stay engaged, breaking down those large tasks into smaller chunks, setting personal goals, or maybe finding ways to add a little variety into your routine.
All right, so you don't get stuck in that rut. It's about finding ways to keep yourself motivated and prevent that mental fatigue.
Now, with those time pressures, deadlines, all that, you could highlight your time management skills, how you prioritize effectively, and that you're willing to put in the extra work when needed.
It's all about being adaptable and handling those tough situations without sacrificing quality.
Exactly. And then there's those potential conflicts with the production teams. This is where you want to showcase those communication and negotiation skills.
Right, finding that sweet spot between advocating for quality, but also maintaining those positive working relationships.
You hit the nail on the head. You could say something like, I know meeting deadlines is super important, but I also believe that quality shouldn't be compromised. I would really listen to the production team's concerns, explain the risks of rushing, and work together to find solutions that meet both quality and efficiency goals.
That's a fantastic approach. Shows you're a team player, but you also stand up for those quality standards. Okay, let's move on to another challenging one. Describe a situation where you had to make a difficult decision regarding product quality. What factors did you consider, and what was the outcome?
Oh, this is a classic, the ethical dilemma question. They're trying to figure out your judgment, your integrity, and your commitment to quality, especially when things get tough.
It's about proving you'll stand up for quality, even when it's the harder choice.
Right, exactly. When you're crafting your answer, choose a situation where you really had to weigh different options and make a tough call. Maybe you found a defect that others might have missed, or you had to decide if a product met standards, even if it meant delaying a shipment.
Those are great examples. So how do you explain that decision-making process in a way that really wows them?
Make sure you walk them through your thought process, those factors you considered, like what were the potential risks, the safety implications, customer expectations, and how it could impact the company's reputation.
It's showing them you're not just blindly following the rules, you're thinking critically and ethically about the impact of your decisions.
You could say, after thinking about how serious the defect was, the potential risks to customers, and the company's reputation, I decided to stop the shipment, even though it meant missing the deadline. I believed that making quality and safety the priority was the right choice in the long run.
That's powerful. Shows you're not afraid to make those tough calls when it comes to quality. Speaking of staying on top of things, let's circle back to something super important from the RoleCatcher Career Guide. Staying updated on those industry standards and regulations.
Absolutely. As a product quality inspector, you've got to keep learning. New testing methods, changes in safety rules, evolving industry best practices, you name it.
It's constantly changing, right? You need to show them you're committed to learning and growing.
So how can you demonstrate that during the interview?
Well, you could mention that you're part of professional organizations like ASQ, that you subscribe to industry magazines like Quality Magazine, or even talk about online courses you've taken to keep your skills sharp.
Those are all excellent examples. Shows them you're proactive and staying ahead of the game.
I think that's a great place to wrap things up. We've covered so much, from those core responsibilities of a product quality inspector to tackling those tough interview questions and showcasing your passion for quality and learning.
Remember, preparation is everything. Use RoleCatcher's fantastic AI tools. Fine-tune that resume, practice your answers, gain that extra edge.
And most importantly, let that passion for quality shine through. Highlight your attention to detail, those problem-solving skills, and your dedication to delivering top-notch products.
Before we go, one last thought-provoking question for you to ponder. Imagine you found a major defect, something that could delay production, but you're getting pressure from management to overlook it. What would you do?
Hmm, that's a tough one. It really makes you think about your commitment to quality and those ethical decisions.
Best of luck with your interview. You've got this.